So how do you play Knightsbridge? You need about 40 to 60 minutes of time dedicated in your classroom to play this game. You need minimum 3 players, maximum 4 players, or 3 pairs or 4 pairs. The player level depends on the vocabulary cards and the associated challenge. This version of Knightsbridge is called Speechless, and it is simply a game to reinforce and acquire new vocabulary terms. You as a teacher can provide your own cards if you like. This version of the game uses vocabulary from 6 different fields, those fields being job hunting, business, science, traveling and leisure, the environment, and food and restaurants. Your objective is to become a knight in the king's court. Okay, so you will have a pawn which we provide for you. So for example, you begin on start, okay, and your objective is to go around the board answering questions and challenges. Each time you have a question or challenge, you will win one of these gems, which you will then add to your shield. Your shield is your scorecard. So each time I get a correct, for example, if I've got a correct circle, if I get a correct square, if I get a correct diamond, and my objective is slowly working from the left to the right as I get all of these gems, is to fill up all of these 18 challenges and to get the key in order to become a knight. So if I get 6, one of each challenge, I've accomplished the peasant level. Then I can move on to being a squire. When I've got all of these, I've accomplished the level of a squire. And then I can try and become a knight. And then I need my last 6 to become a knight and win the game. But only if I've won the golden key. Each of these levels also have specific powers that you can use as strategy within the game, which I will explain just afterwards. Each player has 12 lives, which are represented by these crosses. Okay? Each time you get a wrong answer, you lose a life. If unfortunately you lose all 12 lives, you become a phantom, and you are allowed to whisper in the ear and help other players as you play. So, you'll notice here on the board that we have our different categories of questions and challenges, which are symbolized by these gems. You'll also see these same gems are on the sides of the board. This is in case you decide that you want to attribute, for example, 1 pack of cards here, which will be, let's imagine that you've got your science verbs, you've got your traveling and leisure, you've got your business section, etc., etc. In this version of the game, we have 1 pack of cards, and the symbols are not to do with lexical fields, but they are to do with the types of challenges that you must associate with the verbs, with the words. I will explain. So you have your different steps here. You have your golden key, the tower, the dragon in the tower with the princess as her prisoner, and also these joust corridors, which I will explain to you. Okay, so each player begins here. You move around the board. The youngest player begins, rolls the dice, and moves forward the first, the relevant number shown on the dice, and then we'll have to take a card and answer that question. So let's have a look. Here we have the first card, okay? And let's have a look at the type of challenge that the player has to do. So if you have a circle, imagine we did a 1, if you had a circle, you would simply have to, so take the card, hide it, spell the word that's on the card, here, okay, the word, and the majority of the other players must write down the word on their pieces of paper with their pens, and if the majority write it correctly, then you win that symbol, which you will add to your scorecard here, okay? If I were to land on a triangle, I would have to use that word in the context of a sentence. The majority of the other players must then vote, yes, I've used the word correctly, or incorrectly. So for example, here I would use the scale. I could use it as a verb or a noun. Okay. If I rolled a 3, I would land on here, and I would have to translate that word into my mother tongue here. For example, in French, I would have to say, obviously, to vérifier, for example. If I land on the diamond, this is particular because I need to take, if I land on a diamond, automatically I have to take 3 cards, okay? And then I'm going to use those cards. I take the 3 cards, I turn them over, and I have to choose 2 of those cards, okay? And I have to try and create a sentence using 2 of those words. So here, for example, I'm not going to use the word drought. I'm going to say, I sent an invoice to the company for the catalogs that I printed of their new product range. Okay, so I'm using 2 of the words out of the 3 cards. Okay, if I do that, then I win the corresponding gem. If I land on the square, I have the choice of 4 things. Either I need to mime, so depending on the card that you pick, you decide what you have to do. So either you mime, so it's difficult to mime a flood, or I can draw, or I can make using the putty. Now I have the choice of either mime, draw, or make, depending on the word. Here it's flood. Or I can give a 60-second mini speech about that topic. Okay, so depending on the word that you have, you will choose the action that you want to do. And you also have the last one, which is the hexagon. And the hexagon here is simply you have to get the other players in X number of seconds, in 30 seconds, for example, to guess the word that is on your card. So your objective is number 1, stay alive, meaning keep as many of those red crosses on your shield as possible, and also collect all of the gems and the golden key. Okay? When you have become, when you filled up one whole category and you become a peasant, then you become, then you start beginning the categories as a squire. Okay? Now, in order to validate the statue of this, so you need to have 1 gem from each category. Okay? Once you become a squire, here you're allowed to exchange 1 gem with another player who agrees with you when you have a correct answer. So let's imagine that I have landed on a triangle. Okay, and I'm missing a triangle. I can say, well, okay, I take the triangle and I can swap it with another player, and instead of having the triangle, I can add on a different gem instead, strategically, to fill up and then become a squire and then become a knight. So you can exchange. So once you've got all of the first 6, you can exchange. Once you've got the second 6, here you're allowed to accumulate more of these gems than you actually have on your card. You just simply are going to add on dots to the right, which then you can use to exchange with other players to get other things that you need. Okay? Once you've got all 18 and you've got the key, then basically you win the game. Okay? What happens if you arrive on here, or here, here, or here, in these joust corridors? Well, simply what happens is you will have to challenge another player to help you. Okay? So in order, if there is another player who is already on this corridor or this corridor, because they've just done a joust, if I land on that one here, okay, automatically I must confront that player in a joust. Okay? If nobody is on there, I have to confront a player who is on another joust corridor. Okay? If no other player is on a joust corridor, then I need to also confront a player who is on the same symbol here. So if I have another player who's on the same symbol, then I must confront him. And if still I have nobody else is on that, then I'm allowed to choose any other player that I want. This just avoids players always picking on the same players to challenge. When you're in joust mode, you have to take again 3 cards here. Okay, you place the 3 cards. All right. Another player is simply going to turn it over, and it's the first of the 2 players to translate that word into the target language, who wins that card. So if I turn it over, the player, first of all, who says, for example, deposit in that language will win. Let's imagine that this player wins it and that player wins that one. And the player who wins 2, who has 2, beats the other player in that joust. So if you beat a player in a joust, you can either steal their golden key if they've got a golden key on their shield, okay? Or you're allowed to take 2 of their gems and add them to your own shield, okay? Both players are allowed to move across the corridors, whatever happens. But whatever happens, the losing player also must take one of these, take off one of their lives off their shield, okay? Now, there are some special types of squares on this board. So if you land on the golden key, okay, the players collectively will choose a type of category that you must do. So for example, let's say that I land on here. The other players will take this card, look at the verb, and then say, well, okay, you need to, let's say you need to translate that word, or you need to make a sentence with that word, or you need to get, well, you can't get the other players to guess, okay? But they will choose the category. So if you land on here, the other players choose the type of challenge that you must do on that card, okay? If you lose, meaning if you don't manage to do the correct challenge, then basically you do not get the key and you lose 1 life. If you take up the challenge and you win, then you win the key, you add the key onto your card, okay? You cannot accumulate more than 1 key on your shield, okay? If you land on the tower, okay, when a player lands on this square, he wins a gem of his choice, but he must give that gem to another player. This good deed gives him the right to roll the dice again and play again. Okay, so if you land on there, basically you are going to give a gem to any player that you like. Okay, all right. If you land on the start square, when you just go through the start square, automatically you're allowed to add either any gem that you like or 1 cross to your shield. Okay? When you actually land on the square, you're allowed to add any gem that you like and 2 lives to your scorecard. And the last zone on here is the dragon zone. If you land on that dragon zone, you automatically lose 3 crosses, 3 lives, and it's the next player's turn. Okay, the next player will always be the player to your left. If you have any questions, please feel free to look at the rules. You'll also have a little reminder card here of the types of challenges and the things that you can win and lose based on what you do. So I hope that you enjoy the game. Let me just remind you that you can also use the game, if you like, in connected mode, which means you no longer need any of the cards. You just simply use a bracelet or a connected card in order to show the questions and answer those questions, okay? As I said before, we provide a version of the game which is called Speechless, which is vocabulary acquisition, but you can use all of these things and just simply change this pack of cards and maybe have 6 different packs of cards, and then each time that you land on a specific square, you simply take a card from that pack rather than have one central pack and then have specific challenges each time. Okay, please feel free to visit smartgamesbuilder.com for any more information. Let's have a quick look at some tips for the teacher.